Last week, Proton invited me to the media test drive of the e.MAS 5. Now, I've been to a lot of media test drives in my life, but this one was a little bit different. Firstly, because it was up to Genting and it was with a car that had an electric range of just 325 kilometers, which was a lot shorter than most electric vehicles that I've test driven interstate. But also because it involved a lot of challenges like stuffing as many durians as you can into the front of the car and finding all the compartments in the car, on top of your normal like fuel efficiency and photography contests, which we lost. Now normally I'm not really into these kind of drives that involve a lot of participation because I like to chill out and really experience the car without getting distracted by all of this. But my mood changed when we started to go up Genting, because for the first time ever I got confirmation that the e.MAS 5 really drives as well as it theoretically should. And I knew this as soon as we started to chase down this Suzuki Swift Sport that was also going up Genting. I mean, here we were in this 70,000 ringgit commuter car, chasing down a car that cost what, more than double that was purpose built to be a performance hot hatch. And while we could never really catch up to the Suzuki Swift Sport, he could never shake us. And we even got a thumbs up acknowledgement when we parted ways. But really hats off to Kashi for the amazing driving. And on the way down, I got to drive the car, and I have to tell you, this is the kind of performance that I want out of a car that I drive. I've owned 10 cars over the last 10 years, and this is exactly the kind of performance I enjoy most. I need my car to turn on a dime, I need it to sprint relatively quickly, and I need it to not cost a lot of money. And the e.MAS 5 ticks all 5 boxes. And the e.MAS 5 ticks all 3 boxes. The rear motor on the rear axle really puts a lot of weight in the back, but I think that's what you want out of a performance vehicle, because when you have the weight transfer upon acceleration, you can really feel that the Ling Long tires are getting all the friction they need to put the power on the ground. So it really feels like a super fast car in those first 3 seconds of acceleration, and that's probably why Proton quoted a 0 to 50 km per hour time instead of a 0 to 100 km per hour time. Not to say that it's slow going from 0 to 100 km per hour, but you really feel the performance in that first 50 km per hour, which is honestly what I prefer, because I'm not a very fast driver and this car is not very fast anyway. I mean, this is the perfect sample of slow car fast. And I have to say, I was a little bit skeptical about what this combination of like rear motor, rear wheel drive, what it would feel like in the hands of a pure Geely engineered vehicle. But I don't think I saw any jarring mistakes. What we've seen so far from the Proton-Geely collaboration is Proton always comes in with their ride and handling, but this time I don't think they were allowed to tweak anything with the suspension. And I was a little bit skeptical, so what I did was I progressively dialed up the amount of power I was giving the car while going downhill on Genting, which is a pretty scary scenario with the buses and all that, and I was trying to be as safe as possible. But the faster I went, the more I realized that they had done it pretty damn well, as far as I can tell. I didn't push it to the extreme, but this car felt very intuitive to drive fast. And no doubt the multi-link rear suspension helped with the way this car kind of performs, moving the load from left to right, going downhill. That's a very tricky combination to do, especially when you have all that weight. It's not a light car, but I think the multi-link rear suspension actually really helps in terms of comfort, because this is one of the most comfortable cars I've ever sat in below 100,000 ringgit, especially at the rear. Like, I got to sit in the front passenger seat and then in the rear passenger seat when we were going up Genting, and there were 3 of us with luggage, and the car already weighs like 1.2, 1.3 tons. Plus you got the motor at the back, so I was really expecting all that weight at the back would really upset things. But man, wow, it was comfortable. You didn't get any bottoming out over bumps, over like potholes, nothing. It just behaved so well for a car that's this cheap. But back to the topic of it being a compact car, because if you look at the car from far away, you get the image that this is a very cutesy little city slicker, like almost like an Axia, just from the way it looks in terms of proportion. But actually this car is bigger than the Myvi. I mean, in every dimension, bumper to bumper, wheelbase, height, everything. I mean, weight as well, right? But when I was sitting in the back seat, I had no issue with headroom, no issue with like leg room. Of course, support is not great, but I can't think of a car that costs 70,000 ringgit that feels this good to sit in, whether you're in the front or in the back. Like, it didn't feel like a big downgrade going from the front passenger seat to the rear passenger seat. Very, very well packaged. Now, I know it's starting to sound like all sunshine and rainbows, but there were a few things that I think they didn't get right. The first thing I didn't like was that white interior God, it was so dirty. I think even before we left the Proton HQ, they asked us to fill every compartment we could find with whatever knickknacks. You know, I had to pull socks out of my bag to fill some of the storage compartments. Clean socks, don't worry. When I looked at the compartments after that, I was like, oh man, why is everything in white? Even the cup holder, like covers at the bottom, were white. We found a few of the compartments, but we also found all the dirt at the bottom of those compartments. It was not nice. I'm not against lighter interiors. Honestly, a lot of them look nice, but I think we can agree that the trays that they put in compartments, those should be a darker color just to not gross people out. I also really didn't like the aircon controls in this car. I mean, Proton shows that there's a workaround in the e.MAS 7. The e.MAS 7 has that rotary knob, and you can assign a shortcut so that you can adjust fan blower speed or temperature. So you just double tap it and then you can adjust the fan speed. That's a pretty smart workaround, no pun intended. But here there is no rotary knob, so everything is embedded in the system, which is really not as good as Proton or Geely thinks it is. And the interface doesn't really have a temperature slider. It's just like a vague kind of unlabeled slider at the bottom. And you would think that that's an elegant solution because, you know, you can kind of tell which is cold, which is not cold. I think Peridot got this wrong also, because Peridot's version of this is big snowflake and small snowflake, but smallest is least cold and biggest is most cold. Even though in Celsius the smaller number is bigger, you see that's the problem there. So just label it properly and there wouldn't be a problem. In the e.MAS 5, the problem is that one, there's no slider for like the actual temperature, which is the same as the Peridot general problem. But the secondary layer of the problem is that when we were up in Genting, we couldn't really get the temperature to an exact figure that we wanted. So we didn't know if we were actually getting it lower because it was just spitting out cold air throughout. So when you're in Genting and you actually want to have slightly warmer air, you're not going to get that out of the e.MAS 5, or at least we couldn't figure it out very quickly. So yeah, definitely something they should look into. And I heard something about Proton changing something in the climate control, so maybe this is their department. But either way, we were up in Genting and there was just a little bit of cold air coming out all the time, even on the lower setting. And the other thing I really didn't like is the star motif that goes around the car and inside the car as well. It really looks super tacky, almost like something you'd find on, you know, bumper cars or those, like, you know, the mall cars, the ones that kids sit inside. Why put stars everywhere? I mean, we all know why, but it's disappointing that it's still featured here. It shows that Proton is more and more getting less involved in separating the Geely products from the Proton products. There's no infinite weave, there's none of that stuff that you see in the petrol-powered Protons. In fact, the whole star motif is from the Geely donor car, which is called the, give me a second, Jingwen. It means star wish in Chinese. So I kind of get it in Chinese, in the Geely version, why it has a star. But e.MAS, Proton, you have your own thing going on. It really looks very minimal effort, guys. Come on, do something. I mean, we really are back to rebadging, huh? But speaking of rebadging, this is a point that I think I'm going to move towards my more neutral position. I've told you the good, I told you the bad, now let me tell you the neutral. I'm actually not against the rebadging of this car. Why? Well, during the drive I actually had a little rant video, the Peridot one, which just went out. And I'm not going to get into the politics of it. I think this is the compromise that is more suitable. You want to protect local jobs? Sure, you can locally assemble the e.MAS 5. I think that's a good compromise. Because going the other route and forcing everyone to pay 100 over 1,000 just to enjoy a basic EV, I think I'm kind of done with that route. You know, I don't enjoy paying a lot of money for things. And I don't know why any consumer in Malaysia would want to pay more for things. But I have never bought a new car in my life. And I don't think I ever will. Because the whole market in Malaysia is just so overpriced. I don't feel like paying over 100,000 ringgit makes sense for a decent car. And frankly speaking, neither should you. No Malaysian should have to accrue so much household debt in order to afford something so basic. We've normalized it so much, but all of this only happened or started happening in the Mahathir era of Malaysia, which is when I was born. So I've never seen Malaysia any other way, but I don't think we should settle for that reality. Another thing I'm very neutral about is the range and the size of the battery. Yeah, I mean, I would like to have 400 kilometers. I think that should be the minimum for most EVs, I think, yeah. But the reality is you can't have a big battery and a low price. 325 kilometers, to me, I think that's fine, but it's really specific. This car, I think it's only going to be relevant to the M40s who can already afford to have multi-car household going on. Like, I don't consider myself rich. The fact that I only buy used cars that are like 20, 30 years old should give you an idea of my income level. My wife has one car and it's like 8 years old, and it's not like, it's a Toyota Vios, it's not that expensive. Most people who have okay jobs can afford a Vios. So we're not in that, huge income earning group, but we are in this tier where we can look at the e.MAS 5 as a potential replacement or supplement to our household garage. And my wife just started driving to the office, not every day, but like 3 or 4 times a week after many years of work from home. So her car, which is 8 years old, for now it's fine, but will it be fine to daily drive when it's 10, 11, 12 years old? We'll see. But we're at that point where we can start to think about maybe the e.MAS 5 could be the replacement for our Vios, her Vios. I call it ours, but it's hers. Now, of course, spending 70,000 ringgit on an EV is not going to save us money, even if that subsidy goes down or is removed altogether. I still think we'll probably not spend as much money if we just kept this car and like maintained it. But it is something that we are considering. More importantly, I think a lot of people in this kind of situation would start to consider the e.MAS 5 as a second or third car just for their daily commute, just to eliminate petrol use as much as possible. And maintenance, These petrol cars have a lot of parts that break, whereas with the e.MAS, as long as you don't have to worry about the battery, you're fine. Now, another group of potential buyers is actually parents who are sending their kids to uni for the first time. I think the e.MAS 5, even the base model with that 200 odd kilometer range, I think that's kind of perfect for your first, car for your kid. Because one, the range is so low that they cannot escape your guardianship zone. And if they do escape the Klang Valley, they will leave a paper trail of wherever they charge their car that you can probably track on your apps or through your credit cards. Yeah, so it's like kind of a safety thing built into the car that they can't escape the Klang Valley. The other thing is that the car only goes to 140 kilometers per hour. So even though it feels fast and they'll probably enjoy it, you can rest assured that they will not be doing crazy speeds. And yeah, it's a new car with lots of ADAS and safety features and a pretty good chassis, so there's that safety aspect as well. And the base car stands at like 50,000 ringgit, so it's kind of a no-brainer choosing between this and the Myvi for your kid who is a student who's just starting to drive. I think this car makes more sense. Another group of people that might consider the e.MAS 5 is like people like my parents. They're retired, they have solar at home, they don't drive outstation anymore. So 50 odd thousand ringgit, 60, 70 odd thousand ringgit car that can do all their like market run stuff, feels modern, has safety features, has ADAS, has a 360 camera. I think perfect. So I can't really complain about the range because the group of buyers who will be looking at this, I think the range is not going to matter that much. And these households are probably going to keep at least one other petrol car around just in case. Now, the last thing I don't really have any feelings, positive or negative toward, is actually the looks. A lot of people were saying it's curvy, it's feminine, especially in that marble cream that we had in the test drive, and also in that rose quartz. I mean, to be honest, just don't get it in that color and I think you're fine. That grey color basically looks like a smart hashtag 0.5. I don't think it's an ugly looking car at all. I'm kind of happy that this has a charming, inviting, friendly look to it rather than your, aggressive look, sporty look. It looks fine, guys. Just move on. I think this is the Myvi moment for Proton. When the Myvi came out, Proton showed that even though it had dominance for decades, it couldn't produce a competitive car. It also flipped the script for the whole industry because Proton went from being number 1 to being number 2 kind of overnight. And the first Myvi also showed that there was a hidden segment of the Malaysian population that really was accepting of a smaller car that was just a simple commuter. And if you think about it, the Wira was so dominant in that segment, that small family commuter car, for so long that people didn't realize that the Myvi, a small hatchback that felt big, could completely displace the Wira almost overnight. And yes, the Myvi was 41,000 starting price in 2005. 51,000 if you wanted the 1.3 liter. This one is 70,000 for the full spec. So you may be thinking you can't really compare this to the Myvi. But remember, it's bigger than the Myvi. It feels faster than the Myvi in any engine configuration. It has multi-link rear suspension. It has modern tech, and also that powertrain is very modern. Oh, and let me just check how much is 51,000 ringgit in 2005 money today. Look at that, 77,000 ringgit. It's cheaper than a Myvi. So that's my first impressions of the Proton e.MAS 5 after driving it and spending some time with it. I think it's a fantastic buy. It's a political statement for sure. Whether you buy it, whether you like it or not, you can see people get very, very sensitive about the issue. I can't wait to get a test drive unit for Bo and I to do more in-depth coverage and share some thoughts with you. Thanks for watching. Signing out.